All right, let's do this. Elliot here with your GRE question of the day. Got a pretty challenging word problem on our hands for today, so we'll dispense with all the funny business. This is very serious. Let's take a look at the question we're working on for today. Big fat word problem, so feel free to take a minute, pause me, and read through the question. If you think you know how to solve it, go right ahead and do that. And whether you do solve it or not, you can unpause me and we'll walk through it together. All right, so what do we recognize in the first few seconds reading this problem? Well, we definitely see percents. That's real easy to see even maybe before we get started reading. But what we actually have here is what we usually think of as overlapping sets. And let's talk about how we know that. The question says that at a certain car dealership, 60% of the trucks sold are Model Q and the rest are Model R. So we have everything is either going to be in the Q group or the R group. And then it says 70% of the trucks sold have sunroofs. So every truck is either going to have a sunroof or not have a sunroof. When you see this kind of setup, that's when you have overlapping sets. And what I mean by this kind of setup is two groupings or two characteristics of a set, and everything either has one or the other characteristic for each of these two different groupings. Okay, so we've either got Model Q or Model R, and we've either got a sunroof or we don't have a sunroof. Okay, so really great way to organize information when you see overlapping sets questions. And it's not going to be a Venn diagram. Okay, a lot of instructors, a lot of people will draw a Venn diagram, the two overlapping circles, to show what's going on here. But the Venn diagram is a nice visualization, but it doesn't help us do the math. We have a different way of dealing with these that does help us do the math, and that's going to be a little table. It's going to look a little like a tic-tac-toe board. Okay, so what I mean is we know we could either have Model Q or Model R, and then we'll have the total will go over here. And we also know we're either going to have a sunroof or we're going to have no sunroof. I'll do like that. And then we'll have the total again down here. Okay. And now we make our little table, our little tic-tac-toe board where we're going to keep track of everything. So notice it only takes a few seconds to put this together, as long as you have in one group, in the other group along the top, in one group along the other group along the side. We have boxes for totals. I now have 9 empty spaces where every quantity the question might tell me about can be written down, and we can really cleanly keep track of the information the question gives us. So let's walk through and see how that's done. So we know 60% of the trucks sold are Model Q. So that's the total for Model Q, right? We don't know whether they are with sunroofs or not with sunroofs. And I'm going to put my 60 in here. Now, actually, let me call a quick timeout to make sure we see. We're dealing with percents. Everything is given to us in percents the whole way through. And the question asks what percent. So we're going to have percentages in the answer choices as well. So even though we don't know the actual number of trucks, since everything's going to stay in percents, the whole question through, I hope you'll agree with me, we can think of our total, the total overall number of trucks involved in this question as 100. And I'm going to go ahead and put that in the total box as well. Once we know there will be no converting between numbers of trucks and percents in the question. All right, if that makes good sense, let's keep moving. So we're told 60% are Model Q, the rest are Model R, which you could calculate that 40, but I'm actually going to wait to make sure I'm super organized. I'm going to put all the numbers that are given to me in the question into the table first, and then we'll come back and start doing the leftover math. So the next number given in the question is 70% of the trucks sold have sunroofs. So again, total for sunroofs, we don't know whether they're Q or they're R, but that's going to be 70. Then it says 90% of the trucks sold are Model Q or have sunroofs or both. Okay, so what we're seeing there isn't just one box where we can put that 90. That 90 is actually the sum of a few different boxes here, right? That there could be Model Q or have sunroofs or both. So this is where the first little bit of cleverness in doing this efficiently will come in. I can't write that 90 right in, but the leftover 10% I know is going to be the trucks that are neither Model Q nor have sunroofs. In other words, the ones that don't have sunroofs and our Model R is the leftover 10%, and that does fit just into one of our boxes in the table. Feel pretty good about that? Okay, so we've captured all the information that is given in the question, and we'll start filling in the rest of the table in a second. But first, we always want to confirm that we know where we're supposed to end up so that we don't do any extra steps that don't help us get to the right answer. It says, what percent of the Model R trucks sold have sunroofs? So what we're going to end up doing is taking the total of Model R, the number that's down here, and we're going to take the percent or the fraction and turn it into a percent that have sunroofs. So this number up here, okay? So these are the two numbers that will be involved in solving the question. Those are the two boxes we know we want to fill in, and then we'll have just a little bit of math to do to set up a fraction that we can turn into a percent to match to one of the answer choices, okay? So let's start filling it in. The reason this is preferred to a Venn diagram here is all the rows and all the columns in this table, they have to add up, which helps start doing the math a little bit more effectively than just staring at a Venn diagram and maybe not being sure how to write an equation or what math we're supposed to do. So anywhere that we have 2 out of 3 boxes in a row or a column filled in, we know that the third one has to make it so that the total box adds up, okay? In other words, that box we have circled at the bottom, we know we have 60 and 100 in that row. So this is going to have to be the other 40 to make 100 in that bottom row. Make good sense? And then from here, I can fill in the other box we've got circled, the other one that's important to us. Something and 10 in that column have to add up to 40. So we know that something is going to need to be 30. And typically, especially since here they're just using multiples of 10, it's simple-ish numbers. We don't generally have to write separate equations. Again, the table sort of does the math or the equation writing anyway for us, which is a reason this is a really great way to organize information. Again, any question that has overlapping sets. Okay, so let's come back and remember 30 and 40 trap answers, but those are actually not what the question's looking for. We've got to look again and say, what percent of the Model R trucks have sunroofs? In other words, what percent does the 30 that have sunroofs make out of the 40 total that are Model R? And you don't need to memorize a lot of fraction percent conversions for test day, but a really good one to know, and maybe you knew before you even started studying for the GRE, that 30 over 40, that's the same as 3/4, right? And every fourth is equal to 25%. So 3/4 is equal to 75%. And answer choice E is correct. Great job, team. I hope you'll join me back here next week. On Monday, we'll have a fresh round of GRE questions of the day. And in the meantime, if you have questions or you're just looking for a little extra help studying for the GRE, please, by all means, feel free to shoot me a message at Herson Test Prep on Instagram. And until next time, happy studying.